Take the recipe for a fun car that is built to be sporty, fun, exciting, and cheap. A little lorries of high revving, naturally aspirated power, a 24-hour marination, a 5-speed close ratio manual goodness, and a party-sized pack of Doritos Cool Ranch uncrushed from Sam's Club of damn near perfectly balanced goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, what you get is a car that is, quite frankly, just shouldn't exist. I'm Alex Martini with 2 underscores on Instagram. Grab your pencil skirts, Courage the Cowardly Dog episode, because today we're talking about how to modify a 3rd generation Acura Integra. The Acura Integra, the official car of the girl you should have married when you were 17 but didn't realize how good you had it. Now you're single. Welcome to Martini Works. Need parts? Mod your car, martiniworks.com. Okay, have an Integra already built? Add it to our build thread so you can help people modify their car with us because quite frankly, we give a shit. That's why we've been doing this whole thing. It's why we started it, okay? Buy a car show shirt for crying out loud. So Dakota can stop bragging about that. It's the best-selling shirt on the marketplace. The 3rd gen Acura Integra has a bit of history when it was birthed into this world. The car itself was Honda's testing ground to see if an uplifted, makeup-applied Honda with a bit more up the dress was worth the added price tag. And while the United States was very quickly learning that Hondas weren't anything to kind of like sweep under the rug, sweep under the itchy cotton like blanket, what they were still trying to figure out was if Honda could produce anything that was like more fun, more exciting, a little bit less realistic, and a little bit more dreamy, okay? A little bit more Cadillac. And the answer was Acura, and more importantly, the Integra, a 3-piece SUV Civic that was more refined with the interior, a fancier stereo, and some headlights that the Japanese that did in fact hate. They hated it. Actually, in Japan, they reverted the design almost immediately. And guess what? They were wrong. The quad headlights with the bumper are just they look so good and I love it, okay? The goal of the car was simple. Bring joy to the driving experience. Convince the European car buyers that they could have just that good of a car at a lower price. And by gosh darn it, it kind of worked, okay? What we got was a 1.8 liter naturally aspirated front wheel drive car with 140 to 195 horsepower and 124 to 131 foot-pound torque. That range is not that exciting. Getting power to the front wheels and either a 4-speed auto or a 5-speed manual. The 3rd gen Acura Integra, the official car of leftovers that tastes better than when it was fresh. The V18 engine is what we need to spend time on. And with VTEC, this engine is a load of fun. And people just loved it as long as you got the right trim, because just like everything else, these trims are confusing as hell. The LS was all right. The SE was getting there. The GS was okay. The GSR was perfect, as all things should be. And the Type R, those are the things that any right mind, like, what I would do for one of these is disgusting and shouldn't be talked about on the internet. The GSR with VTEC back in 1994 was probably the reason I was conceived, because it was awesome. 170 horsepower out of this car made it super fun on twisty roads, and the VTEC made you think it had a turbo. I'm not joking, it did. But in 1997, something special happened. The Type R came to the United States, handcrafted. 195 horsepower, a helical limited slip differential with upgraded suspension biddies, okay? And it went to the gym to shave nearly 93 pounds, and it made the car crazy. 3rd gen Acura Integra, the official car of getting called daddy for the first time. Not only was the chassis seam welded for rigidity, but the car won 6 straight championships with real-time racing. And they were reliable, they were good, they weren't just fast and shitty. In 2000, the cars came in the best color imaginable, Phoenix Yellow. And at an MSRP of $24,350, the Type R became a car that cemented both Honda and Acura as the GOAT! The 2023 Integra barely beats the Type R on the quarter mile of 15 seconds versus 15.2, okay? But you're not here to know the history. You own a Honda. You probably know the assembly line's workers' family's name because you're a Honda/Acura enthusiast. You know everything about this car. You people, scary. What do I know? We're here to talk about you modifying one of these cars. So regardless of the trim, here's what you need to know. People like you and people like me aim for a manual transmission of these cars and a body that doesn't have underside rust that looks a little bit like Temu working conditions, okay? Spend money on a clean body and it'll pay for itself in terms of dividends when you go to modify it. That being said, we are looking at 20-plus-year-old Acuras, so it's gonna need a little bit of love in some way, shape, or form. But the B-Series engine is is actually really easy to work on, and it's a platform that can teach anyone a ton of the basics needed before jumping into something that's a little bit more complicated. Basic bolt-ons here will include something as simple as a cold air intake, something that opens up the restrictive OEM system without taking in the hot air that will engulf this engine bay because it does run hot in there. I've seen InGen intakes work well here, but if you get something else, just make sure it comes with a heat shield of some kind. Stave off the fire, baby, okay? Remember, you want more air, babes, but you want cold air. Don't just trust us. Exhaust. If you want to avoid the Acura/Honda jokes, get something that isn't shit. And I'm not kidding. A good exhaust is on business. 60 millimeter or 2.5 inches is really common and probably the best width you can go with. It's a balance of good exhaust note without getting too much rasp. And if you're going to turbo this motor, get a 3-inch exhaust. Best way to know. If you're trying to be a fancy man, get twin loop. It's a little something it's a little saucy, it's a little fancy, and it looks fantastic. Now, because Integras are now demanding the price of a C5 Corvette, which is fucking ridiculous, that means adults are buying cars that really a 16-year-old should be able to buy. But if you're buying mods now, you're gonna see a slew of new car parts out there for these platforms that are like $4,000, $6,000. I saw a $6,800 exhaust because it's titanium. Idiotic 30-year-olds buy that. You do not need to buy that. That shit's silly, okay? Quality stainless steel will do you just fine. Just because something is more expensive does not inherently mean it's better. These cars were built with $1,700 and a Pop-Tart 10 years ago. You'll be fine. And if you're below the GSR trim, intake manifolds are usually a must, as it's pretty restrictive as well. You can check out some like different options on Martini Works, and if you don't find what you need, just press the chat bubble and you'll talk to one of us while we're drinking Spotted Cow and watching the Packers, because what else are we supposed to do in Wisconsin? Well, it's wintertime. Now, we're entering it, and it's important to note, it's coming. We're entering the tune zone, okay? There's two very important things you can do here. You can either go with an all-motor build, in which case, wow, all right? You're incredible, okay? If you're not a bitch and you run like an 11-to-1 high compression naturally aspirated engine with an 8,500 RPM redline, you enjoy all there is to be had in this world with this motor. Or you can get a turbo the size of your head and never have to worry about a life insurance policy. It's honestly up to you. Sometimes, like, making current you happy versus future you happy is just a better way to live. And some people, they just enjoy that kind of life, okay? If you go with a high revving naturally aspirated, it is a treat. It is a whole different type of driving experience. Now, I had a ton of experience with different brands in terms of when you go up with, oh my God. Listen, I might get made fun of. I think it's Wiseco. Anyway, if you go high revving naturally aspirated, I had a ton of really great experience with Wiseco. If that's said wrong, I don't care, okay? Maybe they should make a simpler name. But cast and forged options will work fine when you go into the piston stuff. You don't need a different crank. What you will need are cams, valve springs, and retainer upgrades. Okay, typically what I can say here is that if you're gonna touch one of those pieces, touch it all, because they do work together to give you the desired output you want, which is a functioning motor. If you go wild with pistons but don't touch the other bits, you're really not actually doing anything, because Acura and Honda actually built the engine properly well. So when you go into upgrade it, a lot of times doing singular pieces doesn't do a whole lot. Now, tune zone through, baby, okay? If you go into the tune zone, you're going down in compression, but you're gonna wanna upgrade your pistons as they are cast, and then decide based on how much boost you're going to run if you need to do more. Now, for the broke boys, people like you, people like me, just stick to the intake, manifold, exhaust, and like a clutch or flywheel, and you'll pretty much be ready to rock. Again, you can have fun with these cars, and they can be budget cars, okay? But the best part, the stuff we love, the stuff you know us for, the stuff that we sell at Martini Works because we need to pay for Dakota's beard oil, is wheels, tires, and suspension. Stick to 15s, and man, you will have fun with these wheels, because most of them are cheap as okay? You can get some super cool shit in smaller sizes that look insane. SSRs, Volks, Ram lights, even some older Works are just, they're so awesome, okay? Go with a Meteor tire too. Something like a 215/40 Continental DWS 06 Plus with some BC Racing coilovers. Go hard. If you want to be cool and you want to get Toyo Proxy R888Rs, that's fine, but they're noisy, they're loud, and they're really expensive. They don't last that long. And finally, aero. Regardless of trim, you always need to do with a little aero upgrade, but keep it minimal. Just like clean lip, side skirts, small rear diffuser will go lengths on these cars, because god damn, it is a looker. It is my favorite looking car from Acura, short of the NSX. It's like a car that perfectly encapsulates what a 90s sports coupe was meant to be. The thing about this car, especially the ones with like the GSR and the Type R trim is that the car was meant to be enjoyed and also used. It's a car that made and was built in a way that allowed you to experience what you could have in a sports car, but also had as just a normal daily driver. It's why Hondas and Acuras were always so popular. It's not that they were just cheap, it's that they were fun to drive, and they did such a good job with the transmission. They did such a good job with the power and the torque curve. Sure, it's not a 400 horsepower base model new car with Apple CarPlay, but when you are driving one of these cars, especially in the summertime, you'll have more fun with an intake, an exhaust, some coilovers and wheels, with the windows down, going through town, than you will in pretty much any other car. Because unlike most cars that are trying to show everyone else that you're a car person, the Acura Integra is the one car that reminds you that you are a car person, especially when you drive the car. And if you're looking for parts, just don't forget that you can get them over at Martini Works. You're gonna wanna let us know in the comment section below what car you want us to talk about next, and if you already have one built and you wanna give a tip, drop it in the comments below or add it to our build threads over at Martini Works. I'm Alex Martini with 2 underscores on Instagram, and we will see you later. Peace.